Hello everybody. Thanks for hanging around and listening to what I might have to say. I'll try and not waste your time too much. If you could turn to Ecclesiastes in chapter 3. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Spoiled for space when you give a talk here with this pulpit. I'm sorry, I've got room for paper and everything. It's fantastic. Usually at the house, man, you've got your Bible on your hand, you're trying to balance everything. This is really good. It's the big leagues. So before we start reading from Ecclesiastes in chapter 3, I just wanted to discuss the tragedy that is life and the complex tapestry that's woven with threads and joy through our life. Joy and sorrow, sorry. And I wanted to explore the tragic element of life and how we can find meaning amidst that tragedy, the things that will sustain us even when things get hard. We read here in Ecclesiastes in chapter 3, it's in verse 1. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. And it goes through and it lists all the ups and downs of life, the blacks and whites, the good times and the bad times. But then if you move over to verse 13, you read here, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labour. It is the gift of God. An interesting concept about the labour of life being the gift of God. So, the things that you might do with yourself, the things that you might busy yourself with, that's the stuff that brings the joy. And, I found this in my own life. On a natural level, that if I want to make my life feel better and fuller, I find things to do with myself, and I find things to keep myself busy, and I find things to be responsible for. And I found the biggest turning point for me in my life was when I had kids. That's the biggest taking on a responsibility probably a man will ever do in his entire life. All of a sudden, you've got your wife, and you try and put your wife above you, and you try the best you can. But no one is truly more important than yourself until you have children. And that's an immense responsibility. And, from a natural point of view, where the world tells us that we're just seeking proximal hedonic pleasure, things that bring joy immediately to our lives, go out, have fun, eat, drink, and be merry. It kind of throws in the face that what this world will tell you, that the good things in life and the true joy and true sustaining joy comes from the bearing up of responsibility, from the bearing of burdens. And, we're in a church community here, and there's so many things to be done, and there's so many things to keep yourself busy, and there's so many things for you to be responsible for that can give you true joy. I heard a good quote leading into this talk. You'd sort of listen to a few different things, and the quote was, the man who loves to walk will walk further than the man that loves the destination. So we're here for however long the Lord wants us to be here for. Let's enjoy our walk, and let's find things that bring us sustenance and responsibility, because we can all benefit. When everyone wants to contribute to the church, there's a bit of if you know anything about Japanese culture, Japanese people believe that you always find something better than the way that you found it. So when we come here to join one another, and we come in and we see something that needs being done, let's leave it better than how we found it. Let's make it better for our brothers and sisters. And if we're all doing that, looking out for one another, it's only going to make this place even better to come. So if you want to move over now to John and chapter 16. So I touched on it briefly at the beginning, that life is filled with tragedy and suffering, loss, disappointment, and challenges. And acknowledging this is the first step to understanding our experiences, and then we can understand also that we're not alone, that Jesus Christ came to this earth and he also bared the burdens that we all bear each and every day. He walked this earth for 30 odd years as a man, did all the things that we all have to do. Okay, different times, but he was here, he was there at that time, and he knows exactly what it's like and exactly the burdens that you may carry and the problems that you might have. And he had his eyes on the ultimate goal, and he knew the responsibility that he had. Like, imagine being born and knowing that you were going to end up dying a fairly gruesome death for the sins of people you may have never met, or people that may spit on you while you're hanging on that cross. You're dying for that person. What an immense responsibility. But it gave his life such immense meaning. And obviously this is only from a natural point of view, but how full would have his life felt, knowing that he was so responsible for something and it meant so much to those around him. In John in chapter 16 and in verse 33, I should probably turn there too, otherwise I can't read it with you. And I'm going to read from the Amplifier, but you can read from the King James Version. I have told you these things so that in me you may have perfect peace. In the world you have tribulation and distress and suffering, but be courageous. Be confident, be undaunted, be filled with joy. I have overcome the world. My conquest is accomplished, my victory abiding. And I also read this in the New International Version. It just simplifies it really quickly. It just says, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I've overcome the world. So Jesus knows that you're going to go through hardships. Jesus knows that things are going to get difficult. But he's been here and he says, hey, look, I did it. I've overcome this world. Follow my example. And this world promotes a happiness. We always hear about, I just want to be happy. I just want to, these people are always seeking a joy, or they're trying to fill a void that may be there. But the happiness that is promoted, that we see on our TV screens, on our computer screens and our phone screens more and more, the constant push for social media is, buy this, buy happiness. And then you buy it and you get it and you feel good when the Amazon man knocks on your door. About 3 seconds later you realise that it's trash and you should have bought it from somewhere else. Or it's probably more like Temu probably than Amazon. But anyway, everyone's just trying to buy some sort of happiness. And it's this fleeting glimpse into something that might be more sustaining. And the pursuit of pleasure is not often enough to carry you through the tribulations of life that you may go through. It's not enough to buy that new car. I see a lot of I don't know where you young kids get all your money from, but you've all got really cool cars. I drove around in an $80 Bomb when I first started driving, but anyway, I had great joy in that car because it got me from A to B, but the joy is so fleeting, and we all know what it's like. We've all bought something and felt really good about it, and then found it sitting in the back of the closet covered in dust 6 months later, but we hadn't even used it, probably still in the box that we bought it in. The true sustenance in life, in this natural life, taking us from beginning to end or to the Lord's return, is found in responsibility, in the bearing up of tasks that are important, things that are important, and, for an example, just who's ever done something easy and got something really good from it? There's very, very little in life that is easy to do, requires very, very little time and patience, that pays dividends at the end. It's always the stuff that requires a bit of effort, and there's so much sustenance that comes from that. I want to turn to Luke in chapter 10, please. I want to discuss the choice to put others above yourself as a powerful anchor in the Lord. Luke in chapter 10. Just back a few pages. And in verse 27, and he answering said, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbour as thyself. And then if you read down just at the end of verse 29, who is my neighbour? So it discusses this concept of loving your neighbour, who is the people sitting around here, as yourself. And someone might think, you may think to yourself, well, I don't really love myself. I'm not full of myself. I guarantee there's not a day goes by that you don't put food in your belly, go to bed when you're tired, cover a wound if you cut yourself, care if you cut yourself, damage yourself, care about the person that you might become in the future. There's also that concept that which self are you talking about? Are you talking about the self now? Are you talking about the self in a minute? Are you talking about yourself tomorrow? There's you extrapolated across your entire lifespan. You're almost a community within yourself. So not only should you look after yourself today, But if you're going to look after your neighbour, which is those people left and right, you should also think about yourself in the future, because that person's not here yet, but that person is also very important. Care about the longevity of your walk in the Lord. Care about the job that you might have, the people that are around about you, the people that you might have influence upon. You yourself are a community as well as the people next to you. You also are your neighbour. Care for yourself, care for other people. Helping around the assembly, and I know it's mostly my wife that does it, but we sort of help run, we look after the Sunday school, and I just pretend like I help out. But there's so much joy that comes from helping the kids out. And, they run past me, they give me high fives, and they mostly know me by name. And there's a joy that comes with that. There's a joy with helping other people. And I think we love people that do things. We love people that help out. We love people that are important in the fellowship. Not because we are a respecter of persons, but we respect the people who have, given their time for things that matter to us, and they also matter to them. It's a really community-driving thing. It really brings us all together when we know that someone cares for us so much that they will sacrifice that time. Like last weekend was a huge, if you wanted to look at people putting their time out, the Don't Knock Noah play that we had on last weekend, the amount of effort and work that went in from people, the people that were here until probably gone midnight that night, they were here the following morning making sure the chairs were all still set up. The people that provide the band, the practice that they go through so they don't just sound like me if I pretend like I can play an instrument. It's across this huge spectrum of people, and that was just for one night. And all it was, the general idea of that night was to bring people to the fellowship. But it also provided for each and every one of us, and we come here and we have things to invite people that we might be speaking to. It's easier to speak to people that we know at our workplaces if we've got something to invite them to, and how good a night is Don't Knock Noah that we can bring them to, and how good a day is what's put on for you today, and the sacrifices people make to make sure that the church runs each and every day, that the sound box is looked after, that, like I said, the Sunday school, the creches, the hall gets cleaned afterwards. My house meeting, we're on hall cleaning. Please all put your hand up and help. Please. Otherwise it'll be Brendan and myself doing it. But, and there's a joy that comes with it. It's not just to help other people. It also helps you. I don't think I've ever done anything in my life that was for someone else and I felt bad about it afterwards. There's this great sustaining joy that comes with helping other people. Can we turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 9, please? 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Once again, I'm going to read from the Amplified Bible, mostly because I've got one of these really cool Bibles that has the King James Version and the Amplified Version next door to each other. So I can jump to and fro, and it's really good. And for simple people like me, the Amplified Bible does a good job of explaining itself. So, verse 24, please, of chapter 9. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run their very best to win, but only one receives the prize? Run your race in such a way that you may seize the prize and make it yours. Now every athlete who goes into training and competes in the games is disciplined and exercises self-control in all things. They do it to win a crown that withers, but we do it to receive an imperishable crown that cannot wither. Therefore I do not run without a definite goal. I do not flail around like one beating the air or someone who's shadow boxing, but like a boxer, I strictly discipline my body. I make to it my slave, so that after I have preached the gospel to others, I myself will somehow be disqualified as unfit for service. So it talks about treating your life like you're training. We might not be physically running a race, and we had the Olympics this year and we saw these amazing physical specimens up there jumping over poles and running long distances or short distances in incredible times. And then a few months later, you've almost forgotten that you watched that person run that race. But we're running this really, really long, drawn-out process where you're still called to do the training, but we all get the prize, regardless of... There's no one's going to cross the line first. We're all going to get there at the same time. But your training doesn't go... it still means something to this life. The discipline of making sure that we attend meetings, that we read our Bible, that we preach the word, that we pray in the Spirit, that we also do the natural things of helping the assembly out. Well, if someone, they've got people up here and they're asking for volunteers. It's not a quieter, more awkward moment than standing up on stage and asking for a volunteer and looking at it to see if people look at their toes. Things still need to be done, and the Bible urges us to make sure that we keep ourselves in some sort of shape. Obviously, this is not to look down on people that are ill or people who have passed their expiry date in their own eyes. In my very own house meeting, I've got Phil and Carol Caffrey, who filled in that. They will still be at the back doing cleaning each and every week. So I don't want to point people out, but that's what I'm talking about. Making sure that you're useful. Making sure that, how much better is it to come into this place and make it better than when you came in and then leave? And you can go, how good was that? How good for everybody around here? How good for us all that person came? I look at myself, and there's been times in my walk where I haven't been super useful, and it took me a while to grow up and see that things needed to be done, and I love nothing more than to come in, sit on a chair and run out. But now that I've slowly, incrementally done the little bit that I could and do the little bit that I could and do the little bit that I could, somehow someone thought it was a good idea to throw me up on stage somehow, but here I am, hopefully not making a fool of myself. But you're not called just to come up on stage and give a talk. You're called to do what you can do. Everyone can do something, and you don't get to great unless you start what you can do. You don't get to fantastic until you do simple. Just start with what you can do. This is certainly not a condemning talk. This is an inspiring talk. I want to try and just hopefully grab that little bit inside you that wants something, that little void inside that goes, I'd love to be more involved. We all have it inside us. We all had moments where we go, I'd love to do that. Just do what you can. There's a piece of paper it starts with just picking a bit of paper up off the floor. And we build on that, and we build on that. And I think there's something to be said about, I think about our departed brother, Pastor Steve, and because I've got his little thing, I keep it in my Bible here. And when he left, it actually meant something. Like, we actually missed him. And I want, when the day that I may pass away, say the Lord, tarries, and I get to live to a ripe old age, and I pass away one day. I'd love to think that people thought, the world's not quite as good a place as when Wayne was here. Because I think about that about Pastor Steve, He brought something, he brought a joy, and that man put his hand up for everything. How good if we could all be like that? How good if we could all be, if we don't come to a meeting one week because we're not well, people go, they notice that you're not here because something didn't get done. Something was missed because you're the person that does that. That's your thing. That's your sustaining thing. That's what gets you through. Anyway, I got a bit emotional then. Anyway, carry on to Romans chapter 12, please. Romans chapter 12. And in verse 10, I'm going to read from the Amplified again. Sorry, everybody, but it's pretty much the same. I just feel like a word sings better. Be devoted to one another with authentic brotherly affection as members of one family, giving preference to one another in honour. And then it says, never lagging behind in diligence. And then we skip down to verse 13, it says, contributing to the needs of God's people. Be devoted to one another. Do something for somebody else. And then and in turn, they will do something for you. We've got quite a few brothers and sisters that might be unwell at the moment, going through a few turmoils in their life, cancers and chemotherapies and that kind of horrible stuff. And what a great opportunity to be used of the Lord to help someone, which will in turn help you. Because it's not, when you give your hand out to someone, something always comes back. There's always a joy left inside of you. The great Greek proverb that I wrote down here that I remember the other day, I wanted to bring it to you. I'm not sure if anyone's heard this, but a society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they shall never sit. Which I don't think I need to explain, but obviously, if we do things just because they're good, even if it doesn't benefit us, when the older people in the assembly, and you're all going off to a seniors camp. Is it next weekend? Yeah. There'll be a void here because everyone's involved. Some things won't get done, and I'm sure they've already tapped someone on the shoulder and they're making sure that they get catered for, but they're doing things to help people, even though they may not see the benefit of what they do in the church. You know, they might not see the 20 people that are going to come to the Lord next year, but they keep on putting in. They keep on doing the right thing. We turn to Galatians in chapter 6, please. Just a quick snippet here, Galatians chapter 6 and verse 9. It says, "And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not." You know, how will you contribute to the world or to the fellowship, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of what might be going on? You might have some mental health issue that you're dealing with. And I want to encourage you, and this is certainly no way, I am not trying to say that I understand some things to do with mental health, but I do believe that just trying to trudge on can only bring good. I don't think it can bring bad. I just think trying to do as much as you can for as long as you can, I just think it just helps sustain you. I've never found anything in my life personally, when things got hard, that stepping back helped. I just, the nose to the grindstone, I suppose is the old saying. You just bury in and you just get it done. No one ever really did anything great until they decided that they will do good nonetheless. Regardless of what happens, I will do the best that I can. I want to start turning over to Matthew chapter 5. I'll just close up. So my call to action is dare to be great. Strive to be someone whose legacy positively contributes to the world and reflects the values of your faith. I want you to remember also that greatness is simply not a title, is a conscious choice to embrace responsibility and to love deeply, even when life is challenging. No, I didn't need to find my space now. Okay, Matthew chapter 5, sorry. I did say it right the first time. "Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." How good is it? It's an easy way to testify to someone that you might know if you're doing something, to let them know, I've got the play coming up this weekend, I'm going to be, we can't all be in the band pit, not everyone's as talented enough, but, come and enjoy. I'm making a meal, come and enjoy it. If you're doing something and there's ownership that comes with it, there's pride that comes with it. So I just urge everybody, most of you are already doing these good things, but I just want to encourage you to keep doing them. Seek to be great, seek to be missed if you're not here. And praise the Lord. Amen.